What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Creativ Rise podcast. I am so glad that you are here today. If you are a new listener, welcome to the show. My name is Joey. So glad you were tuned on in today. Today is a solo episode. My co-host, my wife, Christy, is out. She's got a little bit of a sore throat today, so she's not on the podcast. But I am so excited because the solo episode is going to be fun because we're talking about outsourcing. We are talking about hiring people, building a team. Should you do it? Should you not do it? You should not do it if you are in a certain spot, and you definitely should do it if you are in a certain spot. We're going to talk about what those spots are. We're talking about a couple different things that I have learned over the last 10 years of working for myself, in the last 7 to 8 years of hiring people to work with me. There's a lot of things that I've done wrong. There's a lot of things that I've learned and done well, and there's definitely aspects of hiring people that you got to be aware of, and there's aspects of hiring people that can really, really rocket what you're doing. So I'm excited to talk about that today. So a little bit of backstory. This topic came out of a DM. So shout out to, let me just pull this up because I'm like, I got to make sure that I shout them out. Who actually said this? Let me pull this up quick. I had it up earlier. Should have lost it. But basically, the gist of the story was, got a DM on Instagram. Right here, Bobby. Shout out to Bobby Coronado. He hit us up and was like, hey, what can we know? What can you guys talk about on the podcast about going from solo to team, going from solopreneur to somebody who's building a team? I would love to know. He's like, talk to me about SOPs, all that stuff. What do I need to know? So I was like, perfect, man. We love doing episodes on topics that you guys need to know. If we can shortcut you by listening to a 15-minute episode, shortcut you 6 months, a year, 5 years of learning from what we've gone through, we love to give that to you and hope it helps you build your business, because that is why Creativ Rise exists. That's why we do this podcast every single week, every single Wednesday this episode drops. It's because we just believe in building a world where more creatives succeed while doing what they love, and how we initiate that is by covering topics like this. So with that being said, shout out to Bobby Coronado for the idea for this topic. If you have any questions, any ideas that you would love to see us cover on the podcast, please let us know. DM us on Instagram at Creativ Rise. DM us on TikTok. Even better, if you want it to be even more intimate, click on our Creativ Rise Instagram profile. There's a text us button. Click text us, and it will literally auto-populate my phone number, and you can just put in your question or say, hey, what's up? And then tell us, and we can go back and forth about it, which is really cool. So let's dive on into today's podcast. Again, this one goes out to Bobby. We're talking about outsourcing, building a team, going from solopreneur to managing a team, SOPs, what's an SOP, all of that. I've got 5 things for you that I'm going to cover in today's podcast. It's not going to be long, but 5 things that I'm going to cover that are going to really give you some insight into things that I've learned over the last 7, 8 years of hiring people to work with me, and whether I had to learn them the hard way or whether it worked out well. So the first things first is, the biggest question is, when do I need to start outsourcing, right? Every creative entrepreneur, every solopreneur, every photographer, filmmaker, graphic designer, whatever you are, always ask the question, when should I start outsourcing? Well, here's my answer to you. To keep it really simple, you need to start outsourcing when the work you are currently got your head in, what's occupying your time, is affecting you producing future revenue. When you cannot go and grow the business, you can't go produce more future revenue because you're so stuck editing a wedding for 20 hours, whatever you're doing, there's lots of opportunity to go, hey, how could I have somebody help me with this in order to put my focus back on producing more revenue? Because as the business owner, whether you like it or not, that is your job. That's the bloodline of your business. Your company runs off the blood, which is finances. It runs off money. That's what keeps everything going, cash flow. So the quick answer to when should I start outsourcing is when you know that what you're currently working on is not the best use of your time, because you need to stop focusing on a post-sale task, which I'll talk about, and start getting your focus back on income-producing activities that are going to project future revenue. So here's the first thing. Here's the first tip that I would love to give you on building a team or building, your first list of clients that you're going to take jobs for and then start outsourcing stuff to, is number one, make a list of all the tasks you have to do in order to run and operate your business. Take inventory of your tasks, okay? So number one, take inventory of your tasks, and then you're going to rank tasks from 1 to 10. It's very simple. Here's how it works. 1 is a task you are not good at, or you just totally dislike it. You could be good at it, but you really dislike it. Or you don't dislike it, but you suck at it. That is a 1 all the way through like a 3.5, okay? All the way through 4 5s are like things you're kind of mediocre at, but you don't love them that much. A 10, if you were to rate a task, a 10, like let me say Sales, I gotta be producing content, weekly content for socials. I'm a 10 at that. That means you love it. You thrive at it. You are in your zone, okay? That is a really, really important distinction. What are you not good at? Nor maybe you just don't like it. And what do you love? And what are you really, really good at? So take and complete inventory of all of your tasks, write them all down, and give them a rating. Now, this rating is going to distinguish very clearly what should not be a priority of yours and what should be a priority. Because guys, it's not difficult, right? Like, the best way to grow a business is by doubling down on the things you're good at and the things you like, and just getting people to help you on the things you are not good at and you do not like. It's not rocket science, right? That is what scaling is. That's how you use outsourcing. You simply go, what is not affecting future revenue that I don't like and that I'm not good at, and how do I find somebody to replace myself there so I can put my time back into projecting future revenue, growing the business. Business isn't complicated when you think about it that way, right? So you got to take an inventory of all your tasks to figure out what you're really good at, what you like to do, and the things that you would rank low. I don't like to do that. I'm not good at them, okay? Those are going to be the things that you want to outsource, right? So now you're probably asking the question, okay, well, that sounds pretty simple, Joey, but what do I outsource first? Like, if I've got 5 to 6 tasks, let's say it's emails, it's editing weddings, or it's editing projects, or whatever, file management, whatever it's going to be, what do I outsource first? How do I know what I should outsource first? Well, that's a great question. Anytime you're looking to grow your business, asking the question, what should I outsource first, is a phenomenal question, because you've got to make sure whatever you're outsourcing is wise, right? Now, what does wise mean? When you're looking to outsource something, what is a wise decision? Well, a wise decision is, how do I make sure that whatever I'm giving up and having somebody outsourced, to do that job, how do I make sure that is something that's going to give me my time back in order to, again, go and create more future revenue? So if you've got six tasks laid out in front of you that you want to outsource, you got to pick the first one that you want to outsource is the one that's costing you the most time, that you could be out selling, marketing, creating new offers, scaling your company. Again, generating new revenue. Whatever one is taking up the most of your time. So that's my rule of thumb. If I'm going to look at my tasks, take inventory of them, and go, which one do I need to really get rid of first? It might not be the one that I hate the most. It's the one that's costing me the most time. That's technically then costing me the most money, because my time should be used to grow the business and push the business forward, which is generating new sales, generating new revenue, right? So here's an example. Let's say you're a wedding photographer, a wedding filmmaker. The business needs to grow. Just examine how much time that you are losing, and not only just time, but how much of your time and focus you are spending on post-sale tasks. Now, what is a post-sale tax? A tax. I'm saying tax like it's tax. Tasks. Post-sale tasks. What is a post-sale tax? Well, oh my gosh, I keep saying tax. What is a post-sale tasks? I should have given this another word that was easier to say. A post-sale task is something that is required after the sale is done. So a great example of that would be editing, calling, file management, music searching, looking for music for your next project for whatever it's going to be. These are all jobs. These are all tasks that aren't actually affecting future revenue. They're only affecting fulfilling the revenue that you've already sold on. So these are tasks that are bogging you down that you could have somebody do for you, that you could then go spend your time making more business, right? Generating more business, making more money. That is a post-sale task. So it's really important when you're looking at going, okay, what do I outsource first? Look at the post-sale tasks you have every single day, every single week that you're working. Which ones do I really not like, or which ones are costing me the most time? Because again, that's costing me future revenue. How do I find someone to do that? Hope that makes sense. So number one, again, is make a list of all the tasks you have to do in your business, and then rank them 1 to 10. Find the ones you really do not enjoy or you're really not good at. And then out of those, what are the ones that are costing you the most time to continue to do? Because that's what's costing you the most revenue, okay? So a great way to look at this is, if you're doing 25 grand a year, if you want to get yourself to 50 grand this year, the reality is you're probably just spending time in the wrong places. You're probably spending more time working on post-sale tasks or fake post-sale tasks, meaning you haven't even actually made the money, but you're doing your own projects and you're trying to build a portfolio and all this stuff, which that stuff is all great. But if you were to spend most of your time, 80% of your time, content, marketing, sales, actually driving new revenue, your business would get to 50 way, way quicker than you think. But again, it's all about making sure you're spending your time in the right places. So this is why outsourcing is so important. You want to make sure your time as the business owner is leveraged to pre-sale tasks, the tasks that actually generate a sale, and then you can focus your outsourcing on the post-sales tasks. Oh my gosh, that word is so hard to say. That's my formula, okay? So it's pretty simple. Really want to encourage you to do that. That is the key on how I was bottlenecked as a teenager with my creative agency at like 50 to 60K. And when I finally learned that and I realized, whoa, I am spending way too much time focused on the stuff after I've already gotten the sale. This stuff doesn't matter anymore. It's just the fulfillment. I can find someone to help me do this. I need to get back to selling. I need to get back to marketing. I need to get back to building relationships. That's when my business just blew up and went sky high and easily scaled to 6 figures and beyond. So I really want you to encourage you to do the same thing. It's a little bit of a mindset shift, but it is so, so helpful. So very important. And just to give you some context, like the first task that I outsourced when I was doing all that was shooting and editing projects. So I would go, okay, if we're going to shoot 2 or 3 headlining films a month for $6,000 to $8,000, each, I'm going to bring on 1 to 2 guys per shoot to come help me on the shoot. And intentionally, I'm bringing them on the shoot. I don't have them just editing. I'm bringing them on the shoot with me because I not only want to have them on the shoot. I not only want to have them just edit it, but I want to have them on the shoot so they've got so much context so that they can also edit it really well. If anyone is listening to this and you're a filmmaker, it's obviously way harder to edit footage you didn't shoot or you weren't there for the shoot. So I always would bring people on. When I was turned 17, 18, I started my business at 14. It took me a couple years to finally learn that outsourcing doesn't actually cost you that much money. And it's really helpful and your ROI is there if you do it properly. But that's what I always did first. I would bring people onto shoots, have them shoot with me, and then they'd edit the whole project. I would just do the final glance over at the end. And that was so helpful for me because it gave me all my time back where I would be spending editing, culling footage, storing all the files, coloring, sound design, searching for music, all of that time back. I got all that time back to go focus on generating more revenue for the business, which is so helpful. And that's what helped me grow the company. So that's my first tip. First tip is, again, take an inventory of all your tasks, rank them 1 to 10, make sure you figure out what you are not good at, figure out what you are good at, rank them accordingly, and then figure out what the things that you're not good at or you do not love, what's costing you the most time or you could be producing more revenue. Okay, that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, to build your team. To hire your first contractor, your first employee, whatever it is, you got to decide, is it going to be a contractor or employee? This is an age-old argument. Do I hire, I'm a photographer, I'm a filmmaker, I've got a creative business. Do I hire someone as a contractor or an employee? Well, I got a really, really simple equation for you here. Don't hire an employee. That's basically it. The reason why I say don't hire an employee is employees are long-term commitments, tons of trust. There's a lot of benefits to having an employee. But if your business isn't doing at least 135 to 150 grand a year, don't even think about an employee because an employee is going to take 30 to 45, 50 grand right off the top right away. That's what you're going to have to pay somebody if they're going to be coming on full time. And here's the other thing. You often have to train employees, okay? There's other stipulations with employees. You got to pay them differently. There's payroll tax. There's all these other things where contractors are so easy. There's an easy entry, easy exit. It's so simple. Contracts are so easy. I highly, highly encourage you to work with contractors, hire people as contractors. Again, it's way easier to understand what they're coming in to do, and when they're done, pay them accordingly to that. And you're often getting potentially better work because you don't have to train them up in their skill. You're probably hiring a contractor that's already proficient in what their skill is, which is really cool. So that is my simple, quick answer for number 2. Do I hire an employee or a contractor? Don't even think about the employee route until you're doing multiple 6 figures, especially if you live in certain states or provinces. There's a lot of stuff that makes it really difficult to terminate an employee. So it can just get really gray really quick. So easy. Each rule, easy rule of thumb, just keep it as a contractor. Very simple. We'll move on. Number 3, building a system. This is a big tip. Building a system to engineer a successful outcome for your hire is it's not an option not to do. I don't know what I was going to say there or not, but it's not an option not to do. Giving somebody an SOP or a process to follow, an overview document that shows them exactly how they should be doing what they should be doing, giving somebody a plan is going to obviously engineer an outcome that's probably going to be a lot closer to the outcome you want rather than just saying, hey, go for it. I trust you. Show me what you got. So here's what I want you to understand. Once you've decided on the type of team member, which is probably going to be a contractor that you want to hire, you now know what you want to hire them for because you've ranked out all your tasks, you've listed all the inventory, you figured out what you don't like or what you're not good at, and you've decided what's costing you the most time. Again, you've decided they're going to be a contractor. You're trying to fill the hole. It's now super important to create a clear and concise system and SOP for them to follow. Okay, so an SOP is a standard operating procedure. I like to call them standard operating processes just because it's easier. I think it's just more modern, but it's basically a simple plan that a contractor can follow in order to engineer an outcome that you want to give the task maximum quality and maximum efficiencies, right? So why would you hire somebody if they're not going to be able to get the job done? And why would you hire them if they're not going to be able to get the job done in a timely manner? Well, an SOP, a standard operating process or procedure, is going to help them do that really well. Now, it's just a document. It's a step-by-step document or a backlink on your website or whatever it's going to be. You're meeting up for coffee with them. And you're going to walk them through something and teach them this, and you got a handout for them. Whatever it's going to be. You can do it in any format. It has to include these 5 things, okay? A standard operating procedure, a standard operating process, an SOP for your first hire when you're looking to make your first hire, start growing a team, needs to have these 5 things. Number 1 is a description of the task as an overview, okay? A description of the task and its importance. So it's simply just like a little statement talking about what the task is and why it is important. If people don't understand why the task they are doing is important, their motivation to do it might not be where you want it to be. No one will ever care about your business as much as you care about it. So the more you can show people how what they're doing is important, it serves the mission behind the company, or it serves the, it serves just even the tasks that need to be done in order to push the business forward. The more they can feel like they've got some skin in the game with that, the better they're going to perform, right? So number 1, keep it really simple. Just write out a brief description of what the task is and why it's important to where the business is going. Number 2, the second thing you have to have in your standard operating procedure or process is a task start and endpoint detailed summary. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. So many people struggle when they first hire people, myself included. When I first started hiring people, I did not show them where they were coming in, so what their endpoint looked like and what their exit was going to look like. Hey, Joey, you'll know you'll be done the task when the file is fully exported out of Premiere, you've uploaded it to Drive, you uploaded and backlogged the actual assets from the entire edit, everything's saved. That's when you're done. Like, I didn't do that type of stuff when I first started hiring people. So people would just kind of be like quiet on me, and I'd be like, hey, is this thing done? They'll go, I finished that a couple days ago. I'm like, oh, why didn't you tell me that? They're like, I didn't really know if I was finished, but it sounds like I'm done now. And they're like, oh my gosh, right? But that's my fault. That's the leader, because I didn't actually give them details on what the exit of that task would look like. So when you are hiring somebody, it's super important to give people an intro and an outro, like detail, like, hey, here's what it's going to look like to start. Here's when you know you can be done with this task, okay? Really important. Step number 3 of creating an SOP is actually giving them the process in specific detail. Now, the better you can lay out the actual do's and don'ts, hey, do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through what it looks like to actually engineer the outcome you're trying to have them get, the better you can do that, the better result they're going to get, right? It's not rocket science. Like, if you were to say, hey, I need you to edit this wedding video for me, and you say, hey, here's a hard drive with all the footage, go for it. They might be able to put you together a cool video. But if you say, hey, here's the files, they're all in this hard drive. There's also a document on that hard drive that's going to walk you through exactly how I want you to edit it. It's got a 5-point summary on how you search for music with the different types of fields we're going for. It's then got all of my actual like system workflow on how you need to organize the timeline. It's got all the stuff on how you save the videos. Here's all the export settings you're going to use. Here's where I need you to put the files when you're done. Like, if you have a process like that, the result you're going to get is going to be way, 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 way better. And here's the thing, guys. When you're hiring people too and you're working with team members, one of the earliest things that I had to learn as I started to grow as a leader and started to bring people onto a team was, if something happens and it's not right at the end, or something was missed, if I never told them it had to be done, it's my fault, right? If I never said, hey, when you are done, all the footage gets uploaded here, you have to communicate with me like this, make sure this is done. If they don't do any of that stuff, but I never said it, it's still my fault. So a plan, having a specific process planned out and in detail is really, really great, because at the end of it, if something went wrong, you can say, hey, we got to refer back to this. I mentioned this, you didn't do it. There's some opportunity for growth here. We need to make sure this happens next time. So it gives you also leverage when you're correcting people, which is super, super helpful. Number 4, the 4th thing is communication expectations. If you do not have communication expectations, how, you will communicate with me, how you're going to communicate with the rest of the team, don't expect them to communicate well, right? As a leader, as the person, as the business owner, you need to be giving your contractors communication expectations. Hey, I'm expecting you to follow up with me once a week on this project, or every day, or once you're done with that timeline, once you're done with the rough copy, I need you to message me right away, put it up into a drive. I'm going to look at it, right? Communication has to be dialed, okay? It has to be dialed. Number 5, last but not least, on an SOP, again, which is just a document you're going to hand to somebody, you're going to walk somebody through as they're learning to work with you, is simply troubleshooting. It's a troubleshooting section. So, hey, here's a couple like common flaws that we might fall into while you're working on this project, and here's some advice to handle them in advance. So here's what to do if Premiere closes. Here's what to do if Lightroom shuts down. Here's what to do if, this does not happen. Here's what to do if you can't figure this out. So take some of the stuff that you understand from being a seasoned vet doing whatever task that is, and simply give them some context on it. If this happens, here's what you're going to do about it. Okay, so those are the 5 things I have for tip number 3, which is building a system to engineer a successful outcome for your hire is an SOP. Those are the 5 things to build your own SOP, which is really important. I wish I knew that when I was starting out as a teenager hiring people. Number 4, this is the 4th tip out of the 5 tips total, is communication and feedback, okay? So communication is 100% the most important thing. If communication falls through the cracks anywhere, you're vulnerable to something going wrong, okay? So understanding that the more you communicate, over-communicate if you can in the beginning. It's better to over-communicate than to under-communicate for sure. Make sure you create a culture in an environment for feedback and clear lines of communication. Don't just assume a contractor is actually going to be like, hey, I'm so excited to communicate well on this. Most people do not communicate well on something unless they are given expectations to communicate well on it. So hiring any type of contractor, make sure that your communication expectations are very bold and they're very, very clear, and you keep them to them, okay? Number 5, this is a really important one, managing your money when building a team. This is a big question people always ask. Joey, I don't know how much money. I can't hire anybody because I don't have any money to do it. Or I can't hire anybody because I'm not sure how much I need to spend per job in order to actually bring somebody on. Well, this should not be complicated. Hiring somebody to help you work on a project should not cost you more than the entire project. If it does, you got 2 issues. Either the person's way too expensive, or your pricing sucks. So you got to make sure that you get those 2 things figured out. Your hire for a contractor on any given job should roughly sweet spot be between like 15 to 40% of what the actual job cost is, because you've got to make still the majority of the cash on the project probably, because again, your business is going to get taxed. There's other expenses you're going to have. You're the one getting the deal, right? So there's a lot of stuff that the business has to continue to retain in terms of finances. So you cannot just give a contractor 80, 90% of the deal. So my favorite sweet spot, again, is the 15 to 40% of the job, depending on their role. That's a really good sweet spot I like to sit in. So do not let I don't have the money stop you from hiring people, because again, the whole goal with a contractor is that they are giving you time back to be leveraged to go make more money. So the ROI should be huge. If you're paying $400 to somebody to have them edit a video for you, but you get 8 or 9 hours back, you should be able to go and get another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 project with those 8 hours. So important. You have to start thinking like that. So guys, those are my 5 tips. I'm gonna rip through them one more time real quick. So number 1 is make a list of all the tasks you do in order to run your business. Actually make an inventory list of them, rank them 1 to 10, and then make sure you act accordingly and you outsource them accordingly. Number 2 is choosing between a contractor or employee. 99% of the time, go contractor. Number 3, build a system to engineer a successful outcome for your hire. Make sure you create SOPs, standard operating procedures. Number 4, make sure there's clear lines of communication for feedback. The more you communicate, the better it's going to go. And number 5, managing your money when building a team is important, but do not let it stop you from getting started on that. So guys, those are some tips for building your first team. I'm so glad that you were here for this episode. I hope you loved it. Rate and review the show if you did. And if you got a question, please DM us on Instagram. We'd love to cover a topic just like we did for this one based off a DM we got. So other than that, guys, again, from me, solo episode this week. I'll catch you on next week's episode with Christy back in action. See you then.